What is up? This is the War Dog. Welcome to Comic Book Theater with my main man JR. What's going on, JR?
What's going on, War Dog?
Just another day, another podcast. So
Right on.
today, one of the hot books that came out last week is Absolute Carnage. That is written by Donnie Cates, artwork by Ryan Stegman, and I don't know who the interior art is by, which is pretty bad because I really did like the interior artwork in that book. I thought it was actually quite impressive. Um, I can look that up,
Right on.
but I'll turn it over to you and let's get this rolling.
Right on, man. Yeah, Absolute Carnage is the series that we've all been looking forward to for the better part of 3 or 4 months now. I know when last we spoke about it at all, you and I were talking about War of the Realms, and we basically both came to the conclusion that, given a choice between the two, probably skip War of the Realms and go straight to Absolute Carnage if given the choice. And Absolute Carnage has been a smashing success as far as everybody that I've heard that has read it. Now, interest to full disclosure, I've not read it yet. It hit me in a bad week, which is that's par for the course. Some days, we don't always get to get them whenever they first drop. But I know that you got your copy this week and have already read it, correct?
Yeah, it was one of the first books that I read. I picked it up because it's Donnie Cates. I was interested in reading it right away. I mean, most of Donnie Cates' stories I've loved. And I got to say, I mean, with this one, he did a fantastic job. The story, I mean, I think the story was 60 pages, and I was locked in all the way to the very end. In the way that it ended, too, with Norman Osborn and Cletus Cassidy, really gets me excited for the next book. The artwork inside of the book is really fantastic, too. There was times that I actually stopped for a minute and just looked at the artwork. Sometimes, you just read through a book and, you glance at the artwork. But, I mean, this one, there was stopping points where it was like, holy cow. It was colored nice. It was drawn nice. Overall for the $77.99 that I paid, I was pretty satisfied. Granted, $7.99 is a pretty crazy price point.
Right. Well, and honestly, that is part of. I won't lie. That's part of why it kind of went on the back burner a little bit for me. It was that price point. And look, man, we all know we're way past the quarter price tag that it once was once upon a time. We're nobody's kidding ourselves there. But man, basically $8 cover price. They're expecting a lot out of it. Now the other thing too, of course, so many variant covers out there. I will say, for my money, the one that I've had my eye on almost since the day that I heard that it was going to be out was the Art Germ cover. Did you get the A cover, or did you find an Art Germ?
No, I just went with the A cover. They did have another copy. I don't know who the cover was by. It was a pretty nice cover, but because the book is a little bit thicker, the condition of that book didn't meet my standards. I like, a new book to actually feel like I'm getting a 9.8.
Right.
But my shop doesn't they don't buy a ton of variants. They don't have a ton of variants. So I mean, in one regard, it stinks. In another regard, like my wallet, I'm not looking through and saying, oh, I got to pay $8 for this one and $8 for this one and $8 for this one. The other thing is, I mean, with the $8 price point, I remember Donnie Cates was saying that he was hoping to sell more than Jim Lee's X-Men. And so, I mean, if that's the case, I'm paying $8 for what? Like, an overproduced dollar bin book in a few months.
Yeah. Well, and let's be real here. I don't believe that that's firstly, I um don't believe that sales goal is obtainable. Let's be real here. I think 5 million, 8 million, something astounding like that. It way up there. If at all. And one of the things that I think the comic industry is doing correctly these days, instead of just dropping the hammer on one print run and knocking out 5-6 million copies of the exact same book to go out just right now, they are doing print runs and putting different covers on second, third, and fourth print runs. We've ridden this horse since day one, or at least you have, as far as the Immortal Hulk. The fact that they're still rolling out print runs of that book is astounding. And so in that same way, you're getting something a little different every time for a cover. I don't think that all of their choices have been home runs for covers, but a lot of them have been. And when your A cover is Alex Ross, you're not going to go wrong that way. And the same with Ryan Stegman work, or throwing Art German on issue number 1, those kind of things. I know that there is a Mike Mayhew variant that Comic Mint did. That one is a fairly solid one. There are definitely some nice looking variant covers for it. So I don't know that necessarily they're going to be dollar bin books. I hope anyway. But on the flip side, for my money, and this is part of my speculation strategy, just to give everybody heads up on this. I no longer look at a death in comic books as a key issue. It will see a spike initially for a death in a comic book, but unless if that death is permanent, who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at with deaths in comic books. You'll see that immediate spike because everybody, oh no, so and so died. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't really mean anything. So first appearances or nothing as far as an actual key goes. And there again, there are some of those historic exceptions: death of Gwen Stacy, death of the Green Goblin. The first time Jean Grey died. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Some of those, but I mean, I I'm hesitant on anything that claims to be a key that's not a first, or that's not a first appearance. So I do expect this to be the same level that the Cosmic Ghost Rider storyline was for Thanos. Those kind of things with Donny Cates, I expect him to really knock it out of the park. His Venom run has been, it wasn't for Al Ewing doing Immortal Hulk, I firmly believe everything Venom would be even hotter than it is currently. But I think Al Ewing has stolen some of that thunder from him. You kind of think this along those same lines, or you think that maybe I'm blowing Immortal Hulk out of proportion a little bit?
No, I mean, I think, well, first of all, I mean, I think it's great to have a bunch of really awesome writers. Having Al Ewing doing the Immortal Hulk run. You've got, Donnie Cates doing the Venom run, like you said. That's also one of my weekly pickups for my, I don't know how many times it comes out every month, but yeah, I picked that one up too. Donnie's one of the hottest artists. I mean, I guess one of the hottest authors. I think one of the
Right.
saddest parts is, a $7.99 book in this day and age. With collectors like us, we also weigh in on the fact of the value in the future. So, you miss out on a spectacular story because they have that price point that's so high. And is it really necessary? Did it really need to be $7.99? It is 60 pages, so it is about a double-sized issue,
Right.
and it's a phenomenal story. I encourage everybody to try to find a way to read it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, there's a lot of Spidey in it. Um, you know, I know people are hot and cold about Cletus Cassidy and Carnage, but I really like the role that he played in this one, especially towards the end of the story. He kind of just goes into this prison and infects people, and then he meets up with Norman Osborn, and that's where it's like, oh man, this is going to get really interesting because the whole Red Goblin thing was a big hot thing. What, like a year ago?
Yeah, yeah, right around Amazing Spider-Man 800, where the Red Goblin was rumored and rumored and rumored for 5, 6 books. So that's 5 or 6 months that the Red Goblin is coming. Who's the Red Goblin? What is the Red Goblin? Blah blah blah. And then it shows up. He shows up, and you know, ASM 800 had 6 variants, something like that. Those were the main variants, not including any store variants or incentive variants. But it was a huge thing. And you know, they had Alex Ross do the cover for Amazing Spider-Man 800. So that was a thing. And yeah, I mean, Norman Osborn and the Red Goblin definitely were a big thing. Now, my understanding too is that Maximum Carnage is going to be and just so you guys know, if you're not looking into trying to pick up Maximum Carnage stuff, better get it now, because if Donny Cates is to be believed, and most of the time he is to be believed, there's a reason why we call him the Dollar Bin Whisperer. You know what I mean? He
Yes.
when he mentions stuff like, "Hey guys, I'm wearing this jacket that says Maximum Carnage on it," that's like kind of a hint as to where we're going with Absolute Carnage. You should take that seriously. You know what I mean? And it's a 14 issue series that 99% of it you can find in dollar bins. There's a really good up close like picture cover of Carnage that might run you a few extra bucks, and then the very first issue of, I believe it's Spider-Man Unlimited, that might run you $5 or so. But it's chock full of really great covers, and it's the who's who of 90s that Marvel was trying to get over with new characters, new villains. Um, you know, I would expect to see some of those villains, some of those characters make returns in this Absolute Carnage.
Well, the one thing that I would say is to any collector out there, even if you didn't jump on Absolute Carnage #1, pay attention to the Absolute Carnage series because Donny Cates creates new characters that are interesting, and the books go up in value, like Cosmic Ghost Rider, really quick. And Cosmic Ghost Rider didn't appear. I don't think he appeared in the very, or he might have appeared in the very first book that Donnie did of that run. But I have a feeling that the way that this is going to play out, we're going to see another really big new character come out of this. And so I would say pay attention, so that you're not that guy saying, I hate this, I hate this. You're the guy that you have that book and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Pay attention. I'm not a huge Twitter guy. As far as I don't use Twitter. I don't use Twitter as much as I should. If you guys are listeners of ours and or watchers on Facebook, I'm sorry, not Facebook, but YouTube rather, you guys know that we're primarily on Facebook. leave it in the comments. Should we be getting on Twitter and Instagram and some of these other venues a little bit more? Because, you know, we want to interact with you guys more and know what you guys are thinking too. So, you know, just leave that in the comments below for us. But anyway, one of the few people on Twitter that I do actually follow is Donnie Cates. So yeah, pay attention to Donnie Cates, pay attention to his Twitter feed. Ryan Stegman the same way. Some of those guys like to give hints about what they're doing. Good writers, popular writers like that, they interact with the community. They post to their Twitter, they post to social media, and they absolutely do give hints on where they're going. What I mean, I know that our buddy, you know, friend of the show, Jerry Rowe, that might be his official title now from now on.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show, Jerry Rowe. Yeah. Anyway, he has posted several times where they have where the artist that does the interiors for Immortal Hulk, and I know his
Bennett.
first name, Joe Bennett. Isn't that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He posts some of his interiors, and Jerry is all over it, sharing those interiors. That's where you're going to figure out, and you know, obviously there's no dialogue or anything like that in it, but you get a serious sense of what's going on in the story. So you know, keep following those guys, and they will give you their own hints. You don't have to have insider information. Now, of course, you know, like our friend Nick at Key Collectors, you know, he will provide some of that stuff for us. If you're a subscriber, he'll send you out alerts to say, hey, this is the information that I've received. Make sure that you guys know this news too, so that you can hop on the speculation train if you want to, or if you see them if you see books in dollar bins, you can nab them too. So you know, that's one of the great things that we both enjoy about Key Collectors app.
Yeah, and I mean, follow us too, because hey, if I find something or you find something that we know is valuable, we'll gladly share that with you. I mean, I'm all for everybody getting rich at the same time. I don't have to be the only one.
Oh yeah. Well, and just like that, I have said to friends before the podcasts began privately that I was starting to speculate in the Midnight Suns run as far as their first team appearance in Ghost Rider 28. It's a dollar bin book all day long. You should be able to grab a stack 10 deep of that book and not spend more than $10. And really, if you're going to do it, you need to get them where they're still polybagged. That way, you know for sure that gives you the best chance of having the highest grade. Honestly, I'm still grabbing those if I'm finding them at $1 a piece, because I think there might be a little something there. But I freely admit that's a total spec buy. But I'm only dropping $1 a piece on them. If they only ever get to $10 a piece, guess what? I made, you know, 9 times my money on top. What is there to complain about that? If it doesn't go to a $50 or $100 book, I'm still okay because I've still made money on it. You know.
Well, the Avengers book that came out this week is, I read that one, and it's going to be kind of like a race to the Ghost Riders through hell. And I'm trying to look right now to see like what Avengers number it is. I'm guessing it's number 8. But I have a feeling with that too that there may be some potential for something new or exciting to come out of that book as well.
Right on. Well, and I mean, you know, we're talking about spec stuff. Remember back, and this is before the podcast came on, where folks were speculating on which female was going to take the symbiote, and whether it would be the sinners take all version of the female Venom, or whether it would be Screech.
Scream, I think.
Scream. You're right. It's Scream. Screech is from Maximum Carnage. Anyway, Scream.
I thought it was Saved by the Bell.
That too. But we're definitely not going down that road.
Right.
That would go to places we don't want to talk about. Anyway, so thanks, man. You got me off my train of thought.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
awesome. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm goofing. Anyway, Scream, her first appearance, people were specking on it as a sleeper, and obviously she didn't show up in the Venom movie, but she's got her own series coming out after this Absolute Carnage run. So anybody who spec'd on that book for the movie, as long as they didn't flip out of it already, they're still sitting really pretty that if this comes off well, she has a spinoff. The sky is the limit at that point. We all know the sky's the limit. Marvel wants diversity, and they have a diverse cast already. They just have to go back and access some of these forgotten heroes, forgotten anti-heroes, and forgotten villains. And they really are forgotten from the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Scream is going to have her own series actually next. I think it's coming out on Wednesday. It's going to be the Absolute Carnage Scream run, and I think it's either 3 or 4 books. So, I mean, Scream plays a part in this for sure. But yeah, I mean, like you said with the whole diversity thing, you know, they're bringing back, like, Blade has been part of the Avengers now. So they are definitely trying to build on some of these characters, which is good. You know, we don't need to invent or make every character exact. You know, you don't have to have Superman this, Superman that, Superman this. I mean, new characters, but are cool. But there's a lot of existing characters that are diverse that throw them into the stories.
Well, and that's the thing too, is the 5 symbiotes that came out with the Lethal Protectors went into one other miniseries called Separation Anxiety. And after that, just poof, gone.
Yeah.
Now, and Scream was the lone survivor. The other ones were killed off. But like we said before, death in comics really doesn't mean anything. If they need it to, they can come up with any myriad of different ways to bring back those other symbiotes. And so, you know, just like that, I'm not saying of course you can go out and read Separation Anxiety if you want to, if you think that might be the way that Donny Cates starts to hint that he's going. But I mean, those are between Maximum Carnage, Planet of the Symbiotes, right there's 18 books worth of reading. Planet of the Symbiotes has one comic in that 4-issue run that's worth more than the others, and that's the first one in that series. This is the catch with it, and I tell people this all the time. You have to know what you're looking for in those 4 books for the Planet of the Symbiotes. They're flip books. So they're double size. Half of the book, you read it, and it's Planet of the Symbiotes. You flip it over and read the other half of the book, and it's a storyline about the lizard. So be on the lookout for those, because like you say, if people bagged them incorrectly, you can get them as steal, frankly. I mean, you can get them in dollar bins if you know what both sides of the cover look like. And so, you know, just like you say, you gotta know what you're looking at and what you're looking for. But Planet Clintar, I think everybody is aware by now, especially if they're up on the Venom run at all, they know that Clintar is the name of the alien race that Venom is from, but Clintar means cage or prison. That's so quite literally the planet that they're from is basically just a cage for Null.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. There have been hints that Silver Surfer Black may be playing a role in this at some point as well. There's a lot of loose ends to tie up in Absolute Carnage here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I read something about Silver Surfer Black tying into all that too. So I mean, Null's going to be an interesting character, and how he ends up is going to be interesting because in Absolute Carnage, it seems like Null is the god, but that Carnage is actually kind of trying to usurp, and so the big battle might be Null and Carnage, and in the end, we might get something new and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I mean, the premise for it is that Carnage is hunting down every hero who's ever worn a symbiote, and I don't know if that means only 616 heroes or if that means everybody from the Venomverse series that they did. Does that mean every hero from every reality that has ever worn it? Because they did the True Believers, and that's another thing, guys, to kind of look and see what they're reprinting in your True Believers. There's a reason why Marvel is reprinting those True Believers and selling them at $1 a piece. Okay, it's not contrary to some people's belief. It's not to drum up interest in those old comic books so that the old comic books sell. Marvel doesn't give a rat's rear end whether any of your back issues ever sell, ever, ever, ever. They literally, if you threw away every single comic book after you read it once, they would not care. Their bottom line is selling new stories to you. So, if they're throwing out True Believers versions of comic books, it's to pique your interest and get you interested so that you then do go and buy the next $7.99 book or the next $4.99 book. So that's one of the reasons why they did the what if the Venom symbiote had fully possessed Spider-Man, which is one of my favorite what ifs of all time. That is your first appearance of Venom Hulk and Venom Thor and Venom Cap, etc. Those are your first appearances of that, and kind of something else. We're delving into a lot of spec stuff here, but to be real honest with you, if you're not trying to start looking into what keys are in the What If series, you're doing yourself a disservice because we've already seen Jane Foster's Thor. That book is spiked immensely. Whenever Thor was Jane Foster in the comics at first, it spiked up to like a $30 book. After Comic-Con, it went to $100. Now, obviously, we all know that's going to come back down. We will see that soften. I don't foresee it softening under $50. And whenever you start seeing the actual news, film production, photos released of her on set, those kind of things as Thor, you'll see it spike again. I really see that book landing somewhere in the $80 range because that's a 70s book, late 70s book. And for forever, What If books have been basically a throwaway series.
Yeah,
You know, what's that?
I agree with you on that. I mean, and I always felt that way too. Even as a kid, when I was buying them, it was like, this is junk. But now, I mean, looking back, I actually appreciate them. I wish I would have bought them all.
Oh yeah. Well, and I have a drawer in my file cabinet of what ifs. I do not have a complete run, but I have a really solid run. And there are 3 volumes of it. Um, and there are some book, like I say, there are some books that have had value and increased in value. There are other ones that have had value and come way back down. There are other ones that people are still specking on. They're specking on with the Savage Avengers and some of the Conan stuff in there. There's they the first Mayday Parker is in there, which is Peter Parker and Mary Jane's daughter. That was Spider Girl for quite a while. That was a very popular book to pick up as well. Um, the very last issue of the run was short printed, and not super short printed, but just we all know how it is. Last issue of the run, the orders are down. That's the reason the run's getting canceled. Not as many went out, so it commands a little bit more. There are some good books in there to be had, but honestly, at this point, I would be specking on everything. What if? Because of the first appearance type stuff, but also because of the cartoon series, the animated series that's going to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. As you were talking about that, I was thinking, oh man, I better go check out the dollar bins and see how many what ifs I could find, because who knows what they're going to bring up. I haven't read any stories of any specific books that they're going to go through, but I mean, I got to imagine that they're going to probably look at some of the what ifs and
Right.
devise stories off of those.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, they will. Um, I mean, just like you say. Now, I always temper people's expectations too. I try to do this with Josh Sheldon and his spec opinion on the boys. You got to temper your spec expectations that the TV bump is different than a movie bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like Thanos first appearance. Let's be real here. That went through the roof. It was a movie bump before he was going to be in the movies. Thanos was a good big bad guy, but he was way down the list below, below like Galactus and Doc Doom and some of these other villains. There was no sure thing that Thanos was going to work as good as he did. So everybody who spec'd on him, they won big. Um, the the one book for what if the one book for what if that you want to try and get in high grade is What If Volume 1 Number 1. It's a white cover, so it's really hard to get in a high grade in really clean condition. The other thing is it's a little thicker book. It's like a square bound book, so you got to be careful there too. But if you find it in high grade, definitely. And if you find it for under $20 in a relatively high grade, nabbing it is a good idea in my opinion.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
Right
I
on,
need
right
to
on.
add some what ifs to my collection.
They're really great fun stories to read, especially if you know what the continuity is already. Um, Fun ones to read are what if Wolverine had killed Hulk,
Yeah,
and then several years later they do what if Hulk had killed Wolverine. Like you say, there are quite a few of them that are really really entertaining. Um, and it seems as though initially it seemed as though they just were bouncing ideas to see what would work. Because one of the first things that came to continuity from the What If series is what if Elektra had lived? And then shockingly, they bring Elektra back to life because it was a hugely popular what if storyline. You know, those kind of things happen all the time. So you know, that was initially what my thoughts were, is keep an eye out for them to become future continuity points. But with the series happening and stuff like that, I think it's a good series to spec by on.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. So we're coming up on our time limit here.
Right on.
Anything?
Yeah, I actually have one last thing, and I know that we're really, really close to going into some overtime, but I think it's well worth the time to go into a little extra if we need to. I want to talk about the crew, man.
Yeah.
I got my Kickstarter, and so I will show everybody my poker chip. Yes, it looks exactly.
Yeah.
I got my sticker. That's gonna. I purposefully did not put it on my file cabinet yet, because I knew I knew that I wanted to talk about the crew, and so I'm not. I think everybody realizes that I'm not just going to say something to say it. As far as, I'm not going to say it just because we're buddies. If your story stunk, we wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I would politely avoid the conversation. But honestly, I had a good time reading it. I know somebody on the Collector's Corner said that they were reading it in each character's voice. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely was. I could hear Leon. I could hear it in his voice. I could hear B. It was good, man. It was really good. It was entertaining. I don't feel like you skipped over something that I was like, dude, I wish you'd have went here. But I like the fact that you left it a cliffhanger too. That makes everybody invested in getting behind the second Kickstarter.
Yeah, fortunately, it worked out that way where I could have a nice little cliffhanger at the end, and I kind of have a cliffhanger at book 2 and book 3. So you know, I'm really looking forward to the next 2 coming out and seeing what people's reactions are. So far, they've been pretty good. I think most people have enjoyed it. Granted, I don't know if anybody didn't enjoy it. I'm not sure if they would make a post about it. But for the most part, everybody that I talked to said that they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed writing it. So
good deal, man. Good deal. Now, this is the only thing that I did not fully grasp in the backup story. The 2 guys that show up and hand the kids who are playing. I know who one of them is, but I don't recognize the second guy, the bald guy with just the goatee. I don't recognize him, and that's bothering me because everybody else I recognized.
okay, yeah, it's Jason Hare. Jason was bugging me to get him into the comic, and we wanted to add a few extra pages, so I said, let's do a G.I. Joe PSA and make it funny. And I was driving to work, and that whole idea just came to me. I got to work, I pulled out my pad, I started drawing it out. I sent it over to Jason, and I'm like, here you go, man. He read it, he liked it, and then he did we wanted to save a little on the coloring, so he did the coloring on it. I told him to do it kind of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles earlier issues. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it would be pretty cool. But it also, I think it's a cool thing for future stories too, to incorporate new characters, to put a short little story at the end of each one where I can bring in some other characters.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great idea, and it is totally. It makes it feel more like an old school comic book.
Yeah,
old school comic books or not even really old school, just comic books in general having a backup story.
Yep.
So yeah, Jason, I think you gave yourself too many muscles. That's what I think made it where I didn't recognize him.
You're not the only one to say that.
it was really good though, man. As far as, and yeah, I definitely got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book vibe out of the backup story. The main art, uh, it felt a little Simpsons ish, but not really. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like obviously not your stereotypical coloring for the Simpsons. Maybe it's just the feel of the way that the story flowed that it felt that way. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And but still very very entertaining. If you did not get in on the first Kickstarter, you know, get in on the second one for sure. And then what, probably do five issues and then maybe a graphic novel to wrap up all five of them, or what are you thinking there? Have you planned out that far?
Actually, I was kind of going with the trilogy thing, Star Wars style.
Oh, right
Like
on.
the first three books is a trilogy. Then I don't know the next set of books. There's so much story to tell that it's like I don't know if I could tell it all in three books. So it might be a three book, 4 or 5 book, then another 3 book. I don't know. I'm just gonna let it play out.
Right on, man. Right on. Yeah, let the story go where it goes,
Yep.
and just keep writing it, because like you say, I get the feeling that it is going to do nothing but gain steam. So I'm glad I got in on the ground floor. I'm glad our listeners, quite a few of them, got in on the ground floor, and I expect the groundswell to continue to grow. Now, the downside for me is I couldn't figure out which cover I liked the most, so I got all of the covers. But now I'm thinking to myself, I need to share the goodness, but because I like all the covers, I don't know which one I would give away. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the rock. That's the catch 22 I find myself in.
Well,
So
I'll say this: I do have a digital copy, and if anybody watches our podcast and you want to read it and you want a digital copy, just hit us up on this podcast, make a comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you. And I can, if I get your email address, I can send you a digital copy. For I'd like people to be able to read it, and the
right,
more people that read it, the better it can do. So
right on, man. Well, that right there is a steal of a deal right there. And like you say, as a content creator and as a writer, the more people who read your story, the better, the
yeah,
better. So I'm totally down with that. I actually can't wait to make the post about that in the Facebook groups and stuff, because I want you to have to email, like, I don't know, an extra 150 200 people. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I
So
know my work is never done here.
no, it's not, dude. Let's see here. For those of you who don't know, Todd does all like the post production stuff and the posting to YouTube and all that stuff. I literally am just the pretty face here, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is as pretty of a face as we could find. Sorry.
I don't know. You look pretty good with that luchador mask on.
I I will break the luchador mask. I consider breaking out. You know, you're rocking the hat.
Yeah,
Whenever I saw you in the hat tonight, I was thinking to myself, I could one up War Dog. I've got the cowboy hat that lights up. I could do that. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. I thought, nah, I don't think I'll do that. But
you know,
I will.
I saw this at Walmart. It was $7, and I put it on, and I felt like Neil Adams for a minute. I was like, all I need is that blue shirt and put this hat on, and I'm Neil Adams. Although I don't think Neil wears a hat. I think it's more Frank Miller.
Frank Miller is the hat guy. He's
Yeah,
the hat guy. Um, are well, I'm not going to talk out of turn on Frank Miller. He is a legend of the comic book
yeah. We
community.
could do a whole show about Frank Miller for sure.
Dude, you posted, okay, we're getting into overtime here, and we're just talking. So you posting that YouTube video about Frank Miller from Biographics.
Oh yeah.
Give a shout out to Biographics channel here. Love almost everything that guy does on YouTube. I don't watch it because I'm in my truck, but I put it on. I put it on while I'm driving as far as listening to it. And I'm sure it's the same way a lot of people do with our podcast. You put it on, you listen to it. You don't have to look at us to listen to it and get something from it. But I put it on in the truck and listen to it while I'm driving between stops. And man, just that dude does some really good, interesting stuff.
Yeah, he's great.
And so whenever you show that Frank Miller one, I'm like, how have I missed this? Click, done. And it was really, really good. I would like to see him do a few more comic book guys, but that's not up to us. It could be up to us. We could ask him to do a few more, but I haven't asked him yet. So
yeah, we did pimp his show. Maybe I've watched most of his shows, so maybe I can make a comment on one of his videos and say, "Yo, we pimped you out on our podcast. Give us some love and let's get a Jack Kirby one or something."
Yes, dude, Jack. Especially with the popularity of comic book movies and comic book nerd culture in general, I would think that he would be remiss. He would be missing out if he did not do a few more iconic nerd culture people like you say, like Jack Kirby.
Oh yeah,
Stan Lee. Dude. Schuster and Siegel. Do those guys? There's a ton to tell there. Just just like talking about them selling the rights to Superman for a couple $100, and one of them basically ending up broken homeless.
yeah.
I mean, that's anyway. Those are definitely topics we could talk about on later podcasts ourselves here, but that guy does a phenomenal job with his stuff. So
Yeah, he's great. So we had a couple guys that followed our directions and actually we got that key collector thing to give away. And
yes,
actually we have two guys, so maybe we should just paper rock scissors for it. You could be Brian Wake and I'll be Steve Gibson, and it'll best out of three.
okay.
All right, ready?
One, two, three. Oh, you do 1, 2, 3 shoot, because my kids always have this. So we'll do 1, 2, 3 shoot.
Okay. One,
1, 2, 3
shoot.
Dang it.
All right, so there's one for Steve Gibson.
Yep. 1, 2, 3 shoot.
Oh,
we tied.
Okay. 1, 2, 3
shoot.
Oh. Okay.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3 shoot. Nope. Paper ahead.
Doggone it. 1, 2, 3 shoot.
Oh, you got me.
Yeah. Last one. Here we go for all the marbles. 1,
2, 3 shoot. Oh, scissors.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 shoot.
All
right, so Steve Gibson, you are the winner. I'll let you know.
Brian, I tried, man.
And if Steve's already got it, Brian, you're next up, brother.
Right on. That works good.
All right, cool. That's all I got for today. You got anything else?
That's all I got for this evening as well.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this one up. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, make comments. We love you all.
Right on. Be good or be good at it.
All right. Peace out, everybody.